Happy Halloween!
With the celebration of Halloween, it seems like it's a good time to tell ghost stories in Saigon. In every country in the world, there's bound to be a creepy and unexplainable stories, and Vietnam is no different. This is a country with a strong traditional culture and a strong belief in feng shui and a very deep history, some of which is very traumatic. Let's start with some of the haunted places in Saigon. Probably the best known ghost story in Saigon is the Museum of Art. The building, located at 97 Fort de Kin, stands elegantly in the less traveled area of District 1. Beyond housing some of the country's best examples of woodcut paintings and Cham Kingdom relics, the building seems to be clothed in mystery. Back in 1934, when the trio of buildings were first completed, it housed the family business of Huy Bei Hoa, a real estate magnate who was reputed to own about 20,000 properties in the city. Basically, he was a very rich guy. The main building used to be the family mansion and is apparently haunted by the ghost of Hui's daughter. Hui Bon Hoa, a Chinese immigrant, moved to Saigon in the late 19th century. Then he became Saigon's king of real estate, and his business bloomed in the early 20th century. Hui Bon Hoa and his family were respected for their involvement in building public places such as hospitals and pagodas. Some of their buildings are still in use today, such as the Majestic Hotel and Từ Dũ Maternity Hospital. From a penniless man, he went on to become one of the city's wealthiest men. It is said that his assets reached the value of 20,000 houses. Hoa fathered many sons, all of which studied abroad in Europe, but only one daughter whom he treasured. All of a sudden, she was nowhere to be seen, but people started hearing distressing sobs coming from the Hoa's house. The story goes that she contracted the leprosy when an epidemic of the disease swept through the city, and she was confined to a bedroom on the upper floor. For reasons unknown, perhaps shame or fear of social ostracism, it was announced that she had died suddenly of a mysterious illness, and a public burial was conducted. Leprosy was viewed as more of a curse than what it really is, a disease, so maybe it was due to the family trying to protect their status and reputation that they made an announcement that the girl suddenly died. They wanted to put the matter to rest. However, the girl languished for years, locked away in the room, with her muse slit through a slot at the bottom of the door. This went on for years until it eventually drove her insane, and she took her own life, either by hanging or self-immolation. Since then, many people over the decades have reported seeing the ghostly figure of a woman roaming the halls of a stately mansion or hearing anguished cries in the night. Second haunted place located in 727 Trần Hưng Đạo Street in District 5. Commissioned by a millionaire Nguyễn Tấn Đời, it was once known as President Building and was built in 1960, divided into 6 blocks with 13 floors each. At one point during the American War, it housed hundreds of U.S. soldiers. The 530-room building was a pretty big deal during its time, but as most people know, 13 isn't a very lucky number. They didn't listen, and it was only until the 13th floor was completed when deadly accidents started to happen. One such case was of a worker who fell down the supporting columns to his death. This started to frighten the workers, so to boost their morale, Doi enlisted the help of a shaman to figure out what was going on, and in one of the most extreme examples of getting something done one way or another, they secretly brought the corpses of 4 virgins from a hospital to be buried at the 4 corners of the buildings for good feng shui and to protect it from any negative energy. This seemed to work. The building was finished with no further incidents, and Derry was delighted when the U.S. Army chose to rent the entire building to house its soldiers. But as time passed, the building's glory started to fade, and after reunification, local families started to move into the building, and that's when strange things began to happen. Residents have reported experiencing unexplainable incidents such as odd whispers, sudden screams, and even the sound of a military parade. One of the most common sightings was of an American soldier walking hand in hand with a young Vietnamese woman down the halls. There's also a story from the coffee vendor at the entrance of the apartment who claimed to sometimes find a piece of chart paper as offerings to the dead amongst her earnings, even when she carefully inspected the money given to her by her customers. Initially, she figured it may have been a prank by a really determined kid, but she started to notice that this only happened on a full moon days when a particular young woman would buy orange juice from her. The vendor decided to try and find out who this young woman was, only to learn that years earlier, the young woman committed suicide after being sexually assaulted on a full moon night. Still on the topic of cursed buildings, one of the most notable ones is Tung Yi Plaza. Located in the busiest part of Chinatown, it is made up of 3 towers, 33 stories high. Completed in 1998, Tung Yi Plaza was one of the first apartment buildings in the city. However, the building was riddled with a bad feng shui. Some unverified accounts claim that a mysterious fire during the construction led to a few deaths, and the remaining workers then put an evil curse on the place. Many residents complained about constantly feeling uncomfortable and falling sick. One former tenant described a murder-suicide of a couple at one of the restaurants in the building, and like the result of all unplanned deaths, the couple still lurk around the complex. Another story reports a Chinese lady who is often sighted floating around in a Cheongsam, and many residents have also claimed that they dreamt of fires and ghosts disturbing them every night, eventually driving them to leave. Luckily, the building now has been renovated and changed its name into the Garden Mall, and things never repeat. And today's video about the haunted places in Saigon has ended. Thank you for watching. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel. Hope you enjoy it. For my next video, where would you like me to go? Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.